What if I told you Marvel is quietly building the darkest Avengers movie ever made? Not in trailers, not in posters, but deep inside post-production footage that only insiders are seeing right now. Avengers Doomsday is already causing reactions behind closed doors, and today we are breaking down what those reactions really mean. I'm Jack Baker, and this is If you love uncovering hidden Marvel details like this, make sure you're subscribed because this story gets much bigger by the end. Avengers Doomsday is officially in post-production right now, which means the movie is being fully assembled, color grading is underway, visual effects are being layered in, and the final structure is coming together piece by piece. This is the phase where Marvel movies either fall apart or become legendary. And according to multiple insider sources, what they are seeing so far is not messy, rushed, or chaotic. Instead, the tone is focused, controlled, and surprisingly confident. Even though the movie is deep in post-production, additional photography is still happening. And this is not a red flag. Avengers Doomsday has an enormous cast across multiple universes, and several actors were unable to film during the first production window due to scheduling conflicts. This second round is allowing Marvel to finally bring in characters that were always planned. Not reshoots to fix problems, but scenes designed to expand the scope and scale of the story. Here is where things get interesting. Insider buzz around Avengers Doomsday is already circulating, and the tone is overwhelmingly positive. People who have seen early cuts, unfinished VFX shots, and rough assemblies are saying the same thing. This movie feels big, not just visually, but emotionally. And that matters because early reactions during post-production are often brutal when a project is struggling. But in this case, the opposite seems to be happening. One of the most reliable voices backing this up is Jeff Snyder, speaking on the Hot Mic podcast. A reporter who previously broke accurate details about Robert Downey Jr. returning as Dr. Doom, Snyder confirmed Avengers Doomsday is still in post with pickups remaining, but emphasized the buzz is good and viewers will like what they see. That statement alone carries weight because his past scoops on this film have already proven true. What makes this situation different is how early the confidence is forming. Avengers Doomsday is not finished. Visual effects are incomplete. Sound design is still evolving. Yet insiders who normally stay cautious are already reacting strongly. They are not calling it perfect, but they are saying it works. And in Hollywood, that distinction matters. Because a movie that works in post-production usually becomes something powerful once fully polished. Post-production is where weak movies reveal their flaws. Unfinished effects expose bad pacing, poor structure becomes obvious, and studios panic. But according to insiders, this is not happening here. Avengers Doomsday is holding together even in its rough form. And that suggests strong direction, clear vision, and confident storytelling. This detail was not accidental. Marvel does not usually let this kind of positivity leak unless they believe in what they are building. Other trusted insiders have gone even further. Mitam Tushin Hello has claimed Avengers Doomsday may not only be the most epic Avengers film, but potentially one of the most epic movies Marvel has ever produced. The opening sequence alone is reportedly larger than anything we have seen before, while the final battle is described as overwhelming in scale, intensity, and emotional payoff. Statements like these raise expectations, but they also align with what others are hearing. John Campea added fuel to the fire by stating the sheer volume of action and scope in Avengers Doomsday eclipses everything Marvel has done so far. He specifically pointed out screen time, scale, and momentum, suggesting audiences will feel like they are watching a cinematic event rather than a standard superhero movie. Campea even hinted that the opening sequence could become one of the most iconic openings in comic book film history if executed correctly. When you step back and look at the pattern, something becomes clear. These reactions are not isolated opinions. They are lining up from different insiders with different sources, all pointing toward the same conclusion. Avengers Doomsday is shaping up to be massive, mysterious, and emotionally charged. And what makes this even more compelling is that despite all these reactions, the core story details are still being tightly guarded, which suggests Marvel wants the shock to land hard. Despite all the leaks and reactions, Avengers Doomsday remains wrapped in mystery. Marvel has allowed fragments to surface, but not the full picture. Fans think they know the direction, but insiders keep hinting that the real story is far stranger. And this changes everything. Because when Marvel hides this much information, it usually means the emotional core of the movie depends on a reveal that could completely reframe how we see certain heroes. One of the biggest unanswered questions centers on Steve Rogers. What exactly did he do to put Dr. Doom on a collision course with him? Leaks suggest Doom is not acting randomly. His interest in Steve appears deliberate and personal, and insiders believe the reason has less to do with power and more to do with time choices and consequences that Steve triggered when he stayed behind in the past. According to an anonymous tip shared by Jeff Snyder, Steve Rogers may not even be in the universe, fans assume. Instead of the sacred timeline he stayed behind in, he is reportedly living in Universe 828 alongside the Fantastic Four. This is a massive shift because it means Steve's peaceful ending may have unknowingly placed him inside a timeline Doom considers expendable, and that detail was not accidental. The theory escalates when Loki enters the picture. Insiders claim Loki approaches Steve and warns him that his timeline is about to be pruned, forcing Loki to pull Steve out before destruction, possibly taking Peggy with him. If true, this means Steve loses his quiet ending in an instant, and the teaser footage featuring Steve could actually be set in this doomed universe, rather than the one fans expected. This revelation alone adds emotional weight to Avengers Doomsday, because it reframes Steve Rogers not as a retired hero, but as a man forced back into chaos after believing his fight was over. And this is only a small piece of the movie. Insiders insist that if this storyline already feels intense, it barely scratches the surface of what is coming next. A new report pushes Avengers Doomsday into much darker territory. Insiders now say the core themes of the movie are sacrifice and loss, and that should immediately raise alarms. Because Marvel does not use those words lightly. Sacrifice means choices with no clean escape, and loss means consequences that cannot be undone. This signals a story where victories come at a devastating cost rather than a triumphant celebration. One long-running report connects directly to this theme. Sylvia's rumored to sacrifice herself to Dr. Doom in order to save Loki. The theory suggests Doom manipulates her into believing his plan is noble, only for her to realize too late what he truly is, choosing to give her life so Loki can survive. Nothing about this is confirmed, but the fact that no insider has disputed it makes the rumor even more unsettling. Sacrifice may not stop there. Steve Rogers now has a family, a child, and a life he fought to protect, which makes him the perfect emotional target. Insiders believe Steve may be forced to choose between protecting his loved ones or saving the multiverse itself. And knowing Steve, that choice only ends one way. This would transform his story from a peaceful ending into one final, heartbreaking act of heroism. Thor may face a similar fate. His entire identity now revolves around protecting his daughter Love, and Marvel has made that crystal clear. Sacrifice and loss could mean Thor laying down his life to secure her future, and while fans desperately want him to become the All-Father, Avengers Doomsday may take him to the edge first, making his survival uncertain and his choices painful. At the heart of all this is Dr. Doom in a terrifying question: what would you sacrifice to save everything you love? Doom may believe the end justifies the means, while heroes struggle with the cost of doing what is right. This moral divide sets the stage for characters to fracture, alliances to shift, and decisions that permanently reshape the Marvel Universe. As the pressure of multiversal collapse increases, Avengers Doomsday may push certain heroes into morally gray territory. Insiders suggest some characters could temporarily align with Dr. Doom, believing his solution is the only way to prevent total annihilation. This would not be betrayal for power, but desperation driven by logic, fear, and survivor. And that kind of choice is far more dangerous than a simple villain turn. Doctor Strange is one character many fans are watching closely. His history proves he will accept horrifying outcomes if they lead to survival. Insiders believe Strange may not oppose Doom outright, instead recognizing that once incursions begin, stopping the chain reaction may be impossible. This sets up a chilling dynamic where Strange agrees with Doom's conclusion, but not his methods, placing him in direct conflict with other Avengers. The multiverse in Avengers Doomsday is reportedly already past the point of recovery. Once the first incursion occurred, the collapse became inevitable. Universes crashing into each other like falling dominoes. And this matters because it removes the safety net. Heroes cannot simply punch their way out. They must choose which worlds survive and which ones are erased forever. And that choice changes everything. One of the most devastating rumors involves Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Reports claim the opening of Avengers Doomsday may show his universe dying during an incursion with the X-Men universe. The TVA may say Peter at the last second, but possibly not MJ or his family, leaving him alive while everything he loves is erased. If true, this would instantly establish the movie's brutal emotional tone. This is where Avengers Doomsday separates itself from past Marvel films. Loss does not always mean dying. Sometimes it means surviving while your entire world disappears. Characters may live on carrying grief, guilt, and memories no one else shares. And that kind of pain lingers far longer than a heroic death, setting the stage for a heavier and more mature Avengers story than audiences are used to. Everything we are hearing suggests Avengers Doomsday is heavier than Infinity War in a different way. Not shock deaths, but emotional permanence. Choices that cannot be reversed. Worlds erased, families separated, and heroes forced to live with the cost. Marvel appears to be shifting from spectacle-driven tragedy to consequence-driven storytelling. And that evolution signals a franchise willing to grow darker and more mature with its audience. This movie does not sound like a victory lap. It sounds like a reckoning. Humor will still exist, but it will be sharper and more restrained. The stakes are not about stopping a villain, but deciding what deserves to survive. And that distinction matters. Because when heroes become judges of reality itself, every decision becomes morally complicated and emotionally exhausting, which is exactly the tone insiders keep describing. Based on everything revealed so far, Avengers Doomsday may end without a clean win. The multiverse might survive, but not intact. Doom may be defeated, but proven partially right. And the Avengers could emerge, fractured, grieving, and permanently changed. This sets the perfect foundation for what comes next. Because stories born from loss tend to echo louder than stories born from triumph. Remember, the question from the beginning, why is Marvel so confident so early? The answer is simple. This is not just another Avengers movie. It is a tonal reset, a line drawn between the old MCU and what comes after. And that is why insiders are reacting strongly even before the final cut exists. They are seeing the shape of something bold and irreversible. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Avengers Doomsday will meet expectations or completely redefine them? Do you believe Marvel is ready to commit to real loss, real sacrifice, and permanent consequences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Support the channel by liking and subscribing. And as always, this is Jack Baker from JackVerse. Thanks for watching and stay curious.